Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters. I'm your host, Mitch. Glad to have you here. Here at the Commander's Quarters, we're all about Commander on a budget. Today we've got an episode of Spare Change. Some episodes just don't fit in any of my other playlists, so this is where they end up. The topics on these episodes can vary pretty widely, so stay tuned to see what's in store for this one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. And while you're at it, subscribe and review our podcast as well. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Quarters studio, and today's episode is going to be a fun one. We're going to be talking about the most epic spells in Commander. Now you might be thinking to yourself, oh, okay, this is a very opinionated episode. This is, Mitch picks his epic spells that he thinks are epic, and I might not think they're epic. But I'm here to tell you that no, this is completely objective. There are only 5 epic spells in Commander. Actually, technically, there's only 5 epic spells in the entire game of Magic. And if you don't know what those spells are, this might be a little confusing, but we'll get to that here in a second. On a recent episode, I did an episode where I talked about kind of really exciting and fun cards to build around. And these epic spells are definitely ones that can have an entire deck built around and be a lot of fun to do. So kind of consider these as well when you're considering building an exciting and epic deck. And again, if you don't know what the epic spells are, you might be a little confused, but we'll get to that right here. Okay, here we go. So epic is actually a mechanic in Magic, and basically it is this. And I'll put up one on the screen real quick just so you can see it too. Epic is basically when you cast it. For the rest of the game, you can't play spells. At the beginning of each of your upkeeps, copy this spell except for its epic ability. You may choose a new target for the copy. So basically, once you cast this spell, that's all you're casting the rest of the game. I mean, technically you're not casting, you're copying it again, but you cast it, and then you say, haha, it does this. And then next turn, you can't cast any spells, but you get another copy of that, and you go, haha, I did it again. And essentially, you're just doing this epic thing over and over and over again throughout the rest of the game. Obviously, there is a huge price that you have to pay for that, in that you can't cast spells, which is very much a thing that you need to do, but there are not ways around that really, but there are ways to really take advantage of these epic spells, and there are 5 of them, 1 for each color. We're going to go through them one at a time, and the one I think I'm putting up on the screen right now, hopefully, editing, yeah, see if we do it right. Eternal Dominion, let's start off with that one. So Eternal Dominion is a sorcery that costs 7 blue, so 10 mana in total, a ton of mana, but you can get there in Commander. It's a sorcery that says, search target opponent's library for an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land card. Put that card into play under your control. Then that player shuffles his or her library. So basically, hey, do you want to steal something from an opponent over and over and over again from their library? Could be an extremely powerful thing, especially if you know your friend's decks that you're playing against. If you're saying, oh, okay, yeah, Bill's got a Blightsteel Colossus in their deck, so let's just go get that. That's definitely worth the 10 mana then. And again, you keep this over and over and over again each turn. Now, that might be powerful enough to win you the game sometimes, but maybe not other times. If you can't cast spells, you can't really interact with what your opponents are doing unless you've got things on the board to stop them. So you need to make sure that you can get the most out of this spell when you do cast it. So some ways to really kind of take advantage of this epic effect are copy spells. And you have to do this when you're actually casting the initial Eternal Dominion, because after that resolves, you can't really cast spells. So Twin Cast is something that you could cast. It's an instant that costs blue. It says, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets to the copy. Now, the funny thing about epic is that if you copy an epic spell, you get now 2 epic spells that happen every single turn. So you got, your Eternal Dominion, the original, it exiles and gives you that copy each turn. And then the same thing with the copy that you make with Twin Cast, you get basically 2 epics each turn. So now instead of just getting one thing from one opponent's library, you can get 2 things from either the same opponent or multiple opponents. So basically, you can just get more and more copies of Eternal Dominion throughout the game, and this just keeps adding and adding. So instead of just getting 1, you get 2, and that's a lot of value and can really help you out. Another thing that can really help out with this is Twinning Staff, a recent card. I believe from C20. It says if you would copy a spell 1 or more times, instead copy it that many times plus additional time, you may choose new targets for the additional copy. So basically, it's just getting you extra copies of that as well, getting more and more copies. Again, the more that you get initially, the more you get throughout the game, and you just keep getting and doing epic things, which can be a lot of fun. Paradox Haze is another fantastic way to abuse Epic because basically you're going to enchant yourself on this, and it says, the beginning of enchanted player's first upkeep each turn, that player gets an additional upkeep step after this step. So basically, you're getting 2 upkeeps instead of 1. So now, if you were just getting that initial 1 epic, you're getting 2 epic spells because you've got 2 upkeeps. So, and again, if you've got multiple, copies going, you've got basically twice as much. It doubles up the number of copies that you've got of epic. So if you're casting, 6 epic or 6 Eternal Dominion spells, basically, or copying. Again, rules here, not casting, copy. If you're copying 6 each turn and you get 6 things for free out of everyone's library, yeah, you can probably take over the game really quickly and win from there. Now, Eternal Dominion, I can't remember if it costs the most out of all of these. I think it might. 10 mana is a lot, but again, in Commander, you can get to that. I'm going to go through each of these individually, and they have varying power levels, especially in Commander, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But the next one I'm going to talk about is going to be Undying Flames, which is the red one. It's a sorcery for 4 red, and it says remove cards from the top of your library, exile cards from the top of your library until you remove a non-land card. Undying Flame deals damage to target creature or player equal to that card's converted mana cost. And again, it's got epic. So again, this is basically all you're going to be doing throughout the rest of the game. So yes, you don't have access to like a twin cast, but you do have access to other things like an Increasing Vengeance, which basically does the exact same thing. And it's even better if you're flashing it back because then you get twice as many copies. So again, you're really trying to make sure that you can get as many copies of that epic spell initially because it's going to pay off in the long run, giving you multiple. With this kind of a deck, if you're going to build around Undying Flames, you're going to want to have high converted mana cost things in your deck like a Draco. Draco essentially has a lot of text, so it doesn't really matter. All that matters is it has a converted mana cost of 16, and I'm not sure if that's the highest in Magic, but it's definitely up there if it's not. So basically, yeah, you're exiling things off the top. You happen to get this one. Cool, you're pinging someone for 16 damage. That's a lot. And if you're getting more and more copies, you get more spells. So, yeah, you can do a ton of damage with this. Again, 16 might take a player out if they're low to start off with, but you can actually kind of, speed up the process a little bit with this, with something like a Furnace of Wrath. It's an enchantment that costs 1 red, and says if a sorcery deals damage to a creature or player, it deals double that damage to a creature or player instead. So basically, you've got a lot of double damage effects. So if you've got a doubler and then another doubler, you can keep dealing more and more damage once you're getting things off the top and hitting players or hitting creatures. Again, you can hit creatures, so you can try to control the board. But there's a lot of setup that you have to do with this one, but it could be really fun when you can pull it off and do a ton of damage kind of with this over and over again. The next one's going to be Enduring Ideal, which is the white one. It's a sorcery that costs 5 white, so 7 mana total. It says search your library for an enchantment card and put it into play, then shuffle your library. And again, epic. So this one, I know I've actually seen some people build Commander decks around this one. If I had to guess, this is probably either the most powerful or second most powerful next to Eternal Dominion, depending on what decks you're playing against. Again, there's all, very circumstantial. But this one, there's a ton of very powerful enchantments that you can go get to try to control the board, to try to win. So something like a Sphere of Safety is going to help protect you. It says creatures can't attack you or a planeswalker you control unless their controller pays X for each of those creatures, where X is the number of enchantments you control. So if you're running an Enchantress deck, you've got a ton of enchantments in your deck and in play. It's going to be really hard for your opponents to attack you. And again, this is basically just a tutor for free that gets it into play. So you're basically just getting enchantment after enchantment after enchantment, just trying to kind of pillow fort yourself, protect yourself, and then eventually finish people off. Grasp of Fate is another great one that you can go get. When it enters the battlefield for each opponent, you exile up to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls until Grasp of Fate leaves the battlefield. So basically, this is kind of your, okay, my opponents have some threats on the board, let me go tutor this up. Let me get it into play and then get rid of those threats temporarily if they can get rid of it. But you've got other things that you can do too. And then, of course, you can finish players off with a kind of, not combo, but control kind of, a little combo-ish. Dovescape. Dovescape is an enchantment that says whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, counter that spell, that player creates X 1/1 white and blue bird creature tokens with flying, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. So basically, you're saying, okay, I'm not casting things because I'm just basically getting my epic spell over and over again, and I'm getting... I'm getting those enchantments from my library. But then, if your opponents are trying to cast non-creature spells, it's going to be really hard for them to deal with anything. They basically just turn their non-creature spell into birds, is basically what happens. So they get their birds. They can't really, interact with your enchantments that are on the board unless they've got, a creature that does that. But many people don't. So yeah, you're kind of just solidifying this position, setting yourself up, teleporting, and then again, finding that piece that you need to win. So that could be one way to go. Endless Swarm is the green one. It's a sorcery that costs 5 green, so 8 mana total. And it says, put a 1/1 green snake token into play for each card in your hand. So this one, I don't know if it's the weakest, but it might be down there. Again, you're making a bunch of 1/1s. That can be great, but you definitely need setup ahead of time in order to win with this one. Just creating, let's say 6 or 7 1/1s each turn might not get you there if you can't do anything else. So again, Reliquary Tower is something that can really help you out with this one. It says you have no maximum hand size, so basically, you fill up your hand beforehand. You're going to keep drawing anyway, and you can't cast things. So you're basically getting more and more snakes each turn, every single time. So you just keep going and going and going. Something like a Patho Discovery can come in huge for this. Essentially, it's an enchantment that costs 3 and a green. It says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it explores. And exploring means that you reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land, you put it in your hand. If it's not, you can put it into your graveyard, and you get a +1/+1 counter on that creature that came into play. So the great thing about this is it works with tokens, which many enchantments kind of entering, creature entering don't really work with tokens, but this one does. So essentially, this can either get you more lands in your hand, which again grows your hand size so you can get more snakes next time, or it can make those snakes bigger. Another way to make your snakes bigger, obviously, is something like a Beastmaster Ascension, which can come in huge with this. It says whenever a creature you control attacks, put a quest counter. You may put a quest counter on Beastmaster Ascension. As long as Beastmaster Ascension has 7 or more quest counters on it, creatures you control get +5/+5. So now instead of just getting 1/1 snakes, you're getting 6/6 snakes. And yeah, you can easily finish off the game and take it over if you're getting 7 or more 6/6 snakes each turn. That's that's 42 power right there. Math. I believe that's right, yeah. Okay. Anyways, but yeah, you can get a ton of power every single turn, more and more and more, and it's obviously going to be very easy for you to swing with 5 or more creatures when you're doing this over and over again. Again, all of these pretty much require some setup ahead of time, but yeah, if you've got that setup, you can be very powerful and very hard to stop. The last one is going to be the black one, which actually might be the weakest out of all of them, potentially, depending on who you're playing against and your setup. It's Never-Ending Torment. It's a sorcery that costs 4 black, and it says search target player's library for X cards, where X is the number of cards in your hand, and exile them. Then that player shuffles their library. So basically, yeah, this is kind of like the green one, where it depends on your hand size. So you're going to want things, like a spellbook in play, so you have no maximum hand size, essentially. Something like that. Again, Reliquary Tower, spellbook, whatever it is, you want to make sure you can grow your hand size so that you can take advantage of the number of cards in your hand. But basically, yeah, you're searching players' libraries to get rid of their pieces that they need. So essentially, maybe you're getting rid of everything that you can that you think might be their win conditions. You can get rid of, you're not going to get rid of their lands most likely at that time of the game when you're casting this. But if you cast it early enough, I guess you get rid of their lands. But yeah, you're just trying to get rid of things that you think are crucial for that player's deck. If you're playing against your own playgroup and you know their decks, front to back, then obviously this is going to be a little bit better for you. If not, you might need some other ways to search through their library to kind of know how the deck works and what you're going for ahead of time. And then you want to be able to control the board with something like a Tainted Aether or other cards like that. Basically, you need to make sure that even after, you cast this and you can't cast other spells, that you've got some things in play that can kind of deal with your opponent's creatures or other things coming in. So Tainted Aether says whenever a creature comes into play, its controller sacrifices a creature or land. Essentially, you're kind of like, stacks pieces probably really help with this as well, where you're basically trying to just control and slow your opponents down while you keep getting more and more of these epics. So you keep going and searching through their library to try to you're trying to grind out the game so you can eventually kind of basically mill everyone out and take out all their valuable things. So essentially, the further along this goes and the more times you get your Never-Ending Torment, essentially, you're removing their key pieces in their deck. You're making it so that they're drawing into lands or other things that aren't going to help them, and then you can finish them off. Obviously, something like a Necropotence is pretty expensive, but Necrologia could help you out as well with this. Basically, it's you can only play it during your end step. It's an instant, and as additional cost to cast it, you can pay any amount of life. Then you draw cards equal to the amount of life paid. So again, if you've got like a spellbook in play, then you cast your Necrologia, you can get an absurd amount of cards in your hand, and then you just have a giant hand next turn to say, okay, I'm going to search your library for 25 cards now and get rid of those. And it's going to be really hard for your opponent that you just did that to continue going throughout the game, because they're just going to keep drawing into things that they don't need or want. And it just keeps making it worse and worse the longer it goes on. Again, you need those things to be set up ahead of time to make sure that you are able to control the board without casting things. But if you're going to build this deck, you're going to build it in a way that works with that. And again, with mono black too, you've got plenty of tutors, so you can get the right cards in your hand ahead of time to make sure you do that too. So yeah, each of these can be a lot of fun to build around. Again, you do really need, I think, to take advantage of ways to either copy or get, additional upkeep or whatnot. But basically, you need ways to get multiple epics each turn so that you're not just saying, okay, I'm depending on it happening once every single time in order to win. So make sure that you're setting yourself up, and I think that can be really fun to build around. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think about these epic spells, which is your favorite out of all these epics, and yeah, which one would you like to most build a deck around? So yeah, let me know in the comments below, and I think that's all we've got for today. So thanks again, and have a good one. And make sure you're following us on social media for more updates and sneak peeks on future episodes. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons who help make this show possible. I truly couldn't do any of this without your support. If you want to support this channel directly, consider becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, including being able to vote on future commanders for deck techs. There are even tiers where you get your own personalized deck tech dedicated to you. You can check out all the Patreon tiers and rewards at patreon.com/commandersquarters. If you haven't already, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. Here at the Commander's Quarters, we're all about budget commander. So while you're at it, go ahead and check out some of our other types of episodes. And with that, I'm out of here. Thanks again, and have a good one.